Excellent, and welcome to a TED Summit podcast special with Tim McLain from Commio. So, Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Now, Tim is on the down in the trenches, getting brands registered and dealing with all the changes that are taking place at the moment. So, Tim brings a wealth of knowledge and experience on the challenges we're facing in the industry at the moment. So, really, Tim, over to you. Share with us what you're getting up to.
Well, Alan, I've been in this industry now. It's going into I guess, through my fifth year. Believe it or not, it's for me. I'm saying it to myself, and it is amazing to me how much this industry has changed right underneath my feet. Let alone the other people I work with that have been doing this for a decade or more. Both you guys have been doing this for a long time. So with that in mind, it brings us all the way to now, right? Q4 of this year, and now we send technical people to conferences. We go to conferences, and all we're hearing about is not what's the new platform, what's the new voice channel, what's the new way to do text messaging. It's none of that. It's, oh my gosh, talk to me about compliance, and then sort of its sister, cybersecurity. Like we've heard stories now where there are, sub accounts, sub customers of providers like Commio that are getting hacked with phishing attacks, and then they're taking over their channels, and then they're sending out really bad traffic. And guess what? It's in the middle of the night or on a holiday weekend. So what I'm coming here to talk about, Alan, is, well, two things. Number one is the importance of, it's October. It's National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's national. I think that's US only, but let's make it global. And just a reminder to all you folks out there that are running communications as part of your platform or your service, when's the last time you did a security audit? Do you have two-factor authentication turned on your platform? This is a eating your own dog food moment for our industry.
Yeah.
Ourselves included, looking at the way that we go to market. So during National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, I want everybody to do yourself a favor, stop what you're doing, go over to commio.com, click on the blog, and download a copy of our new ebook.
I'll put a link in the post as well, so people can get straight access to it as well.
Yeah. So you already said it, Alan. Myself, my team, I'm on the marketing side. I work with our sales guys. I work with our technical engineers. We're out here just educating with prospects and current customers about compliance and cybersecurity. So let's do an audit of your site. Let's make sure you know how to turn on these different security features. And by the way, it's not just passwords. It's also hardening your services and your solutions from toll fraud. And there's lots of these other things. And it's not complicated or difficult to do it, but it takes a thoughtful evaluation of your services to get there. But let's switch gears. I think we all understand cybersecurity. Let's talk about compliance. So, like I mentioned, we sent our CTO out to a VoIP conference, and it was all about, well, guess what? Stir shaken. Which didn't really, the last rubber, the smell of the tires hit the road this summer.
Yeah.
And now supposedly, of course, all VoIP traffic is now subject to it. Let's not talk about the copper stuff and the hardware stuff that's getting around it. It's not a complete solution, but you and I both know, all of us on this call know that it's all about finding the throats to choke when there's something going wrong or illegal. StirShaken does a great job of giving chain of custody to a phone call and being able to go from point A to point B and find out all the players in the middle and make sure we're all playing nice. So voice has largely been taken care of, at least when it comes to chain of custody. That doesn't mean we're solving for illegal robocalls. We're not doing that, but at least we're giving somebody that chain of custody. The same thing is now happening on the messaging side. And I know you both have done a lot of content around the campaign registry. But what I'm here to say is, unfortunately, it is what it is today.
Yeah.
And we work with customers all the time. And by the way, two things before I get into my tips. I want to, everybody who's on this watching today, I want to give you guys all the tips you need that if you're doing 10 DLC, how to speed proper registration, approved registration of brands and campaigns. Okay, I'm here to tell you it's not rocket science. It's not hard to do. If you follow my tips, there's people that go way too fast, don't dot their I's, don't cross their T's, and they're really frustrated when all their stuff gets denied constantly. Take a breath, guys. Use my tips and put together a professional process. It can be done. But let's start with the news that literally came to my inbox today. I'm so glad we were recording today, Alan. Is as of November 8th, all toll-free, unverified phone numbers that are being used for messaging have to be registered. And guess what? A lot of our competitors say it takes 3 to 4 weeks to get their stuff whitelisted and registered on the toll-free side. So you're already, today's the day, the next couple days, if you have any toll-free numbers you're using for messaging, you got to make sure you start that process today to make sure that you're in time. The good news is we're able to do it in about 5 to 7 days. So in any case, there is now, let's say it all together, there's now no space for unregistered traffic in the universe. Okay, no matter what you're doing.
Okay.
So let's toll free is great. As you all know, there's a lot of people.
So now you have to register with Twilio.
Well, you have to register, or the campaign registry. That's right.
Exactly. Twilio on the 800 and the campaign registry on the other side, which Twilio has about 80% of that as well. So it's officially Twilio Day.
Yeah, and it's funny, guys. It's like, as much as we I shouldn't say make fun of, as much as we were a little frustrated with the FCC's approach to Stir Shaken, it did what it did, and we all know that the whole TCR piece and this toll-free registration things are just the carriers and the DCAs trying to not let the FCC get their hands on that process.
Right.
But we're not there yet. This process is still crazy. So, but let's take a breath. And,
exactly.
Okay, toll free, register your numbers, get them, you'll be fine. Let's talk about 10DLC.
Yeah.
So basically, as you guys know, if you have to go through this process, you start with the brand and you go to the campaigns. Every time you register one of those, you're spending money. So we're here to save you time and money by making sure you can do these things properly from the get-go. So the first tip here is you want to pay attention to the shaft rules, okay? Like, what is going to be rejected out of hand? And I know that people are tired of hearing that term, but let's just make sure we're in lockstep with the current rules, because they have changed a little bit. So if we talk about shaft, it's no sex, right? Pornography, human or sex trafficking, or prostitution. Can't do that. The H is for hate. So it's like anything about abuse, discrimination, violence, or harassment. None of that. A is for alcohol. Can't do that. Firearms, that's the F. Nothing firearm related or ammunition related.
Yeah.
By the way, I get a ton of those ads on Facebook. But wait, that's not what this podcast is about. I'm tired of seeing these ads on Facebook for like these little holsters where you can put your handgun by your foot in your car. Block all that stuff. Anyway, no firearms, no ammunition. And last is tobacco. And by the way, that's a traditional term. It also means no vaping, no cannabis, or CBC products. So those are relatively new. And by the way, you would not be astonished to know how many people have come to providers like us asking to send cannabis related content. It just is. It is a thing, but it's still blocked. So put all that stuff to the side. Now let's talk about the other no use cases that the direct carrier aggregators in particular will not accept. So, and these just changed last week. So let's go down the list.
Okay.
First is multi-level marketing or pyramid schemes.
Yeah.
Next is third-party lead generation or affiliate marketing. Now, as folks who like, the LeadsCons of the world and things like that, this is important. And but the keywords I just said are third-party. So a lot of the white hat players in the lead generation space, they operate their own websites. So they're first party and they do it the right way. So if you're in the third-party lead gen or affiliate marketing space, you're out of luck. And again, we're talking about 10DLC, but it's pretty much for all text messaging. Next is high risk financial services. We've got a few more of those coming up in a second. No personal loans, especially payday loans. Those are now blocked. No third party mortgage lending. Remember, again, third party. First party's fine. If you have a good list and you're doing it the right way through your own website, you're fine. No third party mortgage lending, no third party insurance. And here's the new ones. A couple of these are new. Debt forgiveness, can't do it. No loan or debt consolidation offers. I said debt forgiveness. Debt collection, credit repair, tax refund loans, can't do those. No gambling or casino. No malware, viruses, or other malicious content. They will check every single link, and the domain better match the one that you registered with, the brand, right? You got to make sure those are lined up, because that's how the malware things have snuck through. And last, so I don't know why I'm laughing, because it's terrible, but no more Camp Lejeune toxic water class action lawsuit texts. I'm in North Carolina. That was a big
Yes.
deal. I got
Yeah.
20 of them a day, and now they're not allowed. They're officially on the list.
Wow.
All right. So it's interesting, Alan. Both you guys, it's like there are a fair amount of those folks of that traffic that we've actually worked with that have had to change their business in a lot of ways to get around some of these issues. But it's important to know what you're allowed to or not allowed to.
And it really feels like that's a list that's just going to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Does that mean that essentially that traffic just moves on to IP messaging?
It's going to go somewhere.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure it's going to stay in this space. Now let's talk about this. So as you're getting ready to do the registration process, if you check all those other boxes, let's talk about the things that really cause our registrations to fail. And again, you're not going to be surprised to hear any of these. The first one is website or a broken link. When I say website, they used to allow shorteners, the Bitleys of the world can't do any of those. And the best thing that every brand out there needs to do today, which we actually had a hard time getting our little domain as well, is you need to basically, like if you have a long name, ideally what you want to do is register another domain that points to your main that's smaller so that you're not taking up as many characters. And you would be unsurprised to learn, Alan, how expensive a domain that's 3 or 4 characters is, especially if you want a .com. Ridiculous. I won't tell you how much Commio with only one M was to register, but it was a lot of money. But that's the idea is you cannot use URL shorteners. And ideally you want the brand that's in the text to match the registration. And unfortunately, if you've got a long domain name, you want to register a subdomain that points to the same place so they can verify that.
Okay.
You'd be shocked how many times we see sample messages come through with shortened URLs from Bitly, and we reject those immediately and say, go back, you got to use a real domain.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. And oh, by the way, I'm sorry, just to go deep on this, like when you do register those smaller domains or whatever domain you're using in your messaging, you want to make sure that when the folks that are vetting your campaign go to the Whois database, to look up domain information, that it's registered to the same entity as the brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
The U in your application.
Correct.
And they got to match up. Now, how tightly does the matching have to be? Because on Whois, it can be a bit old, some of the data. So it could be referring to an old address or something. You got to make sure all that's up to date.
That's exactly right. Yes. Now, there's easy ways to explain that away to get through, but I'd recommend just make sure, again, dotting your I's and crossing your T's will absolutely speed this up. You don't want to have any pauses. Next is let's talk about some of the other compliance requirements. The first, and I still can't believe I have to say this, but I got to say it. If you are providing this service to other customers, which all of us are, right? It's not us. Do not register yourself, the agency, as a brand. Like, it's not me. Like, I'm not registering Commio and then sending text messages for hundreds of companies. When you register, you got to register. Each of those brands have to register as their own entity. A lot of agencies make the mistake of registering themselves.
Gotcha.
So don't do that. Again, it happens more often than you want. So the other thing too is if you're a reseller, you also can be found to be non-compliant with Know Your Customer. So when you bring on a new customer, you need to make sure that you're vetting them, make sure you know where they're located, have their actual address, their tax ID number. We have a checklist of, I think it's like 45 items now that we ask our customers to give us before they can work with us. And it's all basic things that any business, a legit business would have. But it's, tax ID number. I could go on and on and on and on.
Like Dun & Bradstreet number?
Like Dunn's number. Absolutely. And again, any legit company will have that information. No PO boxes, those things.
Interesting. So
ideally, yes. Ideally, no. That they will do an additional vet on you if it's a PO box.
Okay.
Let's see. So and here's another big one, Alan. Absence of a compliant privacy policy on the website where you're collecting people's opt-in from mobile devices. Like you literally need to update your privacy policy to specifically say that you will not resell people's information when you take in a conversion. People miss this all the time, or they'll try to word it a little bit like, well, maybe we can, because a lot of people do want to resell their data, but the registration will not go through if you say you resell people's data. Next is, and again, this is a big one, any inconsistency between the website and the sample messages. Like you want to make sure that this registration process should not take place until you know the exact campaign, the exact content in those messages. And when you register, you have to provide sample messages and make sure that those sample messages don't change between the time you register and you hit go. Because the minute they see a mismatch, they will pause your campaign and say, hey, guys, what are you doing? So make sure that everything's lined up before you go through it.
Now, how tight does that have to be? Like, let's say
they'll give you some wiggle room.
Oh,
a little bit.
Because if you change like the names of some of your
that's
some of your products, so
right.
you're sending messages with respect to a product or a service, but it's a different name than you registered with, you're okay there?
We've seen that be okay. It's just that you'd be unsurprised to know that sometimes they give 2 sample messages and what they send is entirely different.
Okay.
And it's like, guys, that's why it's so important to not do this in a real rush ahead of time. Like you want to wait until you have everything locked in and then go through the process.
So it was like a workflow that they hadn't submitted. And of course, that's the one they lead off with. It was the workflow they didn't put the application to.
Right.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Next is, inaccurate registration. Okay, wait, inconsistency between the website and the sample messages. They're missing the required opt-in messaging as well as the stop. You'd be surprised. Like I do some testing, by the way. Our guys set up new campaigns on occasion. They'll use me as the tester. It'll come here to my phone and I'll be like, hey, I hit stop and nothing happened. And they're like, oh, we'll just give it. Sometimes it takes a little bit. And I'm like, I still didn't get it. And it's because they haven't set that up. You got to make sure that the stops are, every stop needs to be replied to. You need to make sure that you're showing that you're ingesting it.
Gotcha.
Next is repeated use of the same EIN number. You don't want to use the same employee identification number across multiple brands. For some reason, sometimes people just put the same number in. You got to make sure you're using a unique EIN number. Next is incomplete call to action information. If the opt-in occurs outside of a website. Let's see, incomplete sample messages. I said they were different, but also incomplete. Make sure that
you got all the text.
Now, after all of this is said and done, which by the way, I don't think any of us on this call are unsurprised by all these things. Okay, take a breath, come up with a workflow, make sure you're doing stuff in the right order. You'll be okay, but you still may be shut down. Even going through all these things, if again you send a message in a campaign that doesn't match the sample, make sure that they're very close. The next is again, the biggest issue that can surface is if you don't lock down your cybersecurity, someone hacks into your platform and sends spam text. So basically, they can use like an entire campaign that's already set up, and they can swap out the message and just go to town and send millions of text messages. And again, usually this stuff happens in the dead of night. So that's where the cybersecurity comes into play. You want to make sure that you're also putting in a lot of the really good platforms. I shouldn't say really good, just platforms in general. If you are already sending campaigns of a certain volume and you already know you have a certain number, certain amount of traffic you're going to be sending, you can actually set sort of upper spend limits inside of your platform. So if suddenly somebody goes to town, it'll shut off at a certain level.
Exactly.
So we've seen people have good success with that.
On the voice side as well, exactly the same. You put spend limits on particular countries or particular sort of types of messaging.
So and let me end with this and say that we go through all this stuff, and let's say there's a phishing attack and somebody sends a couple million text messages on your behalf. It's going to trigger 2 things. One is already the DCAs are saying we're going to trigger what's called an escalated spam review. And if they see too many opt-outs or spam texts coming through, that's $500, right? To do an escalated review. And if you have more than 5 campaigns running, if they hit, I think it's the 5th or the 6th, then it's $1,000. So, and by the way,
funny, who do you pay with that? Cineverse.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then
Cineverse. Wait, Cineverse. You actually paying Twilio. Cineverse.
Right. Well, they get the money.
You may want to kick me off your show now.
It's okay. And by the way, don't get me started on the crazy, on the, I'm not going to say crazy, egregious T-Mobile potential fees. There, we have customers that even say, they block any of their messages from going to T-Mobile because they're, very egregious potential fines.
Well, Cineverse is the one blocking them because Cineverse is the hub for T-Mobile.
Right.
So
Right.
it's all Cineverse. See, the ecosystem is just I'm sure I know you know this, just so that some of the audience that doesn't understand the middleware.
I get it. I get
Gotcha.
it. Yeah, we send it through PCAs/Cineverse, exactly. And then we hold all of ourselves accountable at some point.
So you cover the
So
$500 and $1,000 fines, so the fines can get even bigger than that?
oh, the T-Mobile, I'd have to pull them up to mentally block them out. They're so crazy. The T-Mobile ones are even more egregious than that.
Tens of thousands.
Potentially.
I understand. Yeah, it depends on
Yeah.
the volumes and all the rest of it.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yep. So I think, and again, our ebook, which you're going to put the link, has all of this information, all of the 10 DLC tips. And of course, we have 100% US-based support to work with our customers to make sure that they don't have problems. We get stuff registered in 5 to 6 days now.
Yeah.
It's getting better and better. As long, you're a legit company sending legit traffic, following these rules, you can get it done. And once it's up and running, it runs really well. But it's all these other players, as you and I, us guys know, on the fringes that are trying to push the envelope that are causing havoc in the ecosphere. But I feel like, I don't know about you guys, I feel better as a consumer of communications as well as a provider of communications at the end here of 2023. StirShaken has done good things. I don't remember the last time somebody called me about my car's extended warranty. Those guys are out of business.
Yes.
The FCC took a little while to get in gear. They found those guys. But I don't remember the last time I got a spam call. It's been a while.
They're more targeted now. So
right.
And StirShaken doesn't work.
That's right. Well, I was going to say too, and don't get me started on what the calls my mother-in-law gets. She's like, "Oh, Chase Bank. I didn't know I had a Chase Bank account." Like,
they're more targeted now. So StirShaken's a whole nother ball game. I don't know if you read Alan's report on how much they charge you on your phone bill for call filtering. So it's upwards of $1 to $3 billion a month.
Yeah,
that the operators are charging for call filtering,
right?
For StirShaken, which doesn't work.
Well, it's funny you say that. I literally Verizon just hit me on my phone, like, "Hey, you're not in one of our call filtering plans. Here, let's offer you one." Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Shouldn't you be doing this as part of customer service?
Sure.
How much? I have one question. I have one question for you.
Please.
What kind of data protections in your contract exist between you and the TCR, Calera, now Tata, and your client's data and contacts being leveraged to sell them to them directly?
That's a great question. I'm not really privy to the contracts that we have there, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know. All I know is, like, Commio is a great example of, like, we're exempt from, HIPAA stuff because we're basically a transport layer. So we don't really see any of it. It just goes right through our connections. But it's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We're very careful, obviously, with making sure that all of our customers have the right privacy policies. They're not reselling their customers' information. And by the way, we get traceback requests just like every provider out there. We are a member of the traceback group, and we want to be a positive part of this community. So you would not be shocked to know that we spend a not insignificant amount of time, answering subpoenas and tracebacks, and just because I think all the good players that have significant volume, we have whole teams that have to keep an eye on that stuff. So we want to make sure everything's been handling the right way. It's all above board, and we don't like spam or illegal robocalls either, but they're a fact of life. And it's funny, like we fired, I don't know, how do I say this politically correctly? We fired a lot of customers in the last 2 years. We fired. Because when we do traffic evaluation, our account managers work with these guys, and we're like, we just saw that campaign. Either you got hacked, unfortunately, you're not doing enough to resolve it, or there's bad, and we have to fire them now, which I celebrate. This know your customer mantra in our industry is so key. And no longer can you go to a reputable provider's website and say, "Oh, I'm going to sign up for a free account," and just start spamming, from certain portions of the globe where this stuff tends to come from. That doesn't happen anymore. It's know your customer. Here's the checklist. Here's the 45 things we need to know as a Commio before we can even turn on a test account. So those are all good things. And we all want to be part of the good players. So, but like I said, between our ebook and we're happy to help too. I mean, I'm not, I'm not saying you have to come and give us money at all, but just, we'd love to take a look at your use case and say, how can we help with, I'm actually putting together some speaking proposals right now to get out there to some of these bigger shows and talk about 10 DLC and compliance and cybersecurity, and just keep being a good educational source for our industry. So it's important. I think everybody in our space has to talk compliance and cybersecurity right now.
Exactly.
It's so important.
Fully agree.
Yeah.
That's
talking compliance on messaging, which is an information service.
Yes.
And who's the compliance officer? Who's the compliance chief?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Yeah.
Who is it? Willy Wonka?
Yeah.
Right. So think about what you're saying when you say the word compliance.
Right.
What does that mean? Compliant to who?
Right.
Before TCR was started, you know that spam messages have gone up 20-fold since the TCR was created. Before that, they were all P2P messages.
That's right. Well, and people were jamming A2P over P2P at the beginning. When I came on the scene, that was the thing.
Well, that was just Cineverse and SAP, because that was the only way you can get it in.
Right.
But I mean, it's just amazing how much work. I mean, you must spend half your time on this.
Yeah, we have a whole team that's all they do. Work on registrations. We have a whole team that just sources the numbers, and then we have to make sure that they're clean.
Yeah.
We're working on branded calling type solutions right now, and then through to the registration. Like, it's really interesting because I feel like, when we started, we were, hey, we have 40 carriers in a route, and we love talking about our carrier relationships. I don't remember the last time I talked about that.
Yeah.
Because there's too many other things to talk about. Compliance. You can't even get a call or a message through without compliance. So and actually that's a really good point, Gio, here too, is that if you don't have a dedicated compliance person, part-time or full-time, or a third party helping you, this is the time to hire that person or entity, because you're running blind. And these guys mentioned too.
They've created an entire industry. They changed they turned the entire industry upside down, and it hasn't solved one problem. It's made problems worse. Why? Because it doesn't work. Very simple. This doesn't work. Look, you got 1,500 customers. You have some huge people. You have to deal with this stuff. At what point are the carriers going to come in and actually, have numbers, have tracking? There's no tracking. There's no numbers in it. Doesn't work. As you know, in the stuff that we've been reporting. So, what's going to happen here? It's just amazing. I'd like to have a follow-up show with a bunch of questions from the industry, from a guy like you. I mean, you're pretty brave coming out here with us. I mean, we're kind of. I mean, I hope they don't get mad at you over there. The powers
I don't think so.
I mean, because we're aggressively screaming about what's going on here.
Yeah, it needs to be looked at in a very direct way, and for the time being, it's just let's work with all the good actors.
Look, it is what it is. I have one more question for you.
Sure.
A while I was watching one of your old videos. I've done a lot of research watching you, actually. So, I mean, you're definitely a leader out there. You talked about, you should choose Aegis because they're closer with T-Mobile. And then you have WMC Global, Cybersecurity Awards, tremendous company. Well, shouldn't carriers and vetting agencies remain neutral?
Yeah. I think we'd all agree that they should.
I mean, so I don't know if you read the article that was put out on Aegis for the congressman. Did you see that? You probably haven't.
I don't think I did.
Google Aegis Mobile and look at news, and you'll see a pretty disturbing story. And it's all around political messaging, which is, again, we're not looking to go there here.
No,
but it's a nightmare.
I posted about it. It was Real Mark Shower, I think it was.
Mark Shower, Real Clear Policy.
Real Clear Policy, yeah. So they were, I know, more complaining about the TCR, but a lot of people don't realize some of the issues that are there. But his focus was very much around political text messaging, which as you've covered previously, they're not held to the same rules as all the brands are.
Yeah, they carved out exemptions from A to Z. Unsurprising. They want to make sure that we all get flooded with text messages around campaign time, which, as we all know, they're ramping up now. I'm starting to get them already. So pretty soon we'll be doing campaigns all year round, which is sad. Nobody wants that.
I think the attention is going to come more and more here. as we talk about it and spread it, and as people write, stories and real clear policy, and looking at one side, and then you have Bill Peters' complaint, who was a founder in it, inside guys, operation guys, a lot more stuff coming out. I actually feel bad for companies like yourself that now got to take all these costs on top of it. Now, 3 years ago, you weren't paying half a penny to a penny. So now think about the amount of money the operators are making off A2P messaging, which they weren't making before. And they're basically burying their cogs in companies like yours. Right. And now your bank and your financials are upside down, on top of the fact of everything that you got to go through. So when you see Bill Peters, he's going to be doing something at the TAD Summit on CPAS Gap and this whole topic that we're talking about. It's really a complete bait and switch, I believe. And Twilio's numbers. I mean, they complained in their recent earnings, the recent analysts, that they're having a slowdown because of 10DLC.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think everybody in the space is experiencing the same thing. It's
they're 80% of the campaigns.
Yeah, I mean the costs just keep going up. They're not going down, and we have to pass that on.
So, do you get a discount? Do you get a discount on campaigns, Ravetti?
No.
Well, you're laughing.
No.
Oh,
why,
okay.
Why would we? Apparently, we're not.
I don't know why. Why would Twilio?
We're not quite big enough. Apparently, we're not Twilio.
So it's a matter. Yet. So it's a matter of how big you are.
Look, that's what I'm going to guess, but I'm going to say, look, Twilio, terrible
You're
name.
pretty big. You got 1,500 customers.
Yeah, compared to Twilio. Look, Twilio, terrible name. Commio, much better name. Got the name. We're a great CPaaS, and now we just got to continue to ramp up, and eventually we'll surpass them.
Twilio's not such a good name if you bought their stock at $350 a share and have lost $70 billion in market cap. So you walk around Wall Street, and their name's not good.
Well,
so I beg to differ.
We could list their names. Yeah, there's lots of other folks in our space that are doing great right now.
Yeah,
Fortunately or unfortunately.
Nobody's lost $70 billion in market cap. Nobody.
But just taking it back to the focus here, okay?
I'm sorry. You invited me to the show, Alan.
And you're welcome. You've asked them.
I told you guys. Okay.
And there'll just be a little piece I take out there.
I feel ambushed. Just kidding. Continue.
I don't think you should take out anything. Censorship is a bad thing.
I think we're good. I think we're good.
It's focus. But I think the key for me, and this is the reason why when Tim reached out, I was like, yes, of course. I don't see anybody else in the space doing as much as Commio to help educate all the brands on how to get their text messaging campaigns working again. Because in a lot of cases, this isn't new. They've had campaigns they've been running for years, and all of a sudden they're being faced with a whole host of hurdles they're having to jump through. So there's a lot of frustration out there. So this is excellent work with your ebook, and then just meeting and talking to people to get the message out there. So well done, Tim.
Well, yeah, thank you, Alan. I appreciate the platform. And again, I recommend everybody go over to commio.com, sign up for our blog and make sure that you get updates. Because I do one or two of these every single month. And I bring on Scott Navratil, who was from the tele side. He's been in this industry forever. And he and along with Mark Spear, our carrier guy, like we have so many people that have been in the industry a long time. And I work with them to message our customers because this stuff changes every week now.
Yes.
And it's like we got to keep everybody up to date. And it's behooves us to keep everybody up to date. And our customers are like, thank goodness somebody's helping, because it just seems like it's nothing but confusion right now. So
exactly.
Hey, take a breath.
And you didn't even get into portability. You can't port anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, how is that? Only if unless you're Cinch or Cineverse, who are you porting? So say somebody wants to leave somebody else and come to you. You have to start all over again. Right? Here we go again.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a no-brainer nowadays. I mean, with our technology and our connections, we can take in numbers and turn them on in literally a matter of minutes. Like you can get a toll-free number from us.
A lot of companies can't. So you guys are definitely more well positioned. So a lot of the smaller companies are getting hurt.
Well, it's funny. Like I do case studies with folks who are like, "Oh my gosh, it took us 6 months to get a new toll-free number." I'm like, I could have got you one in 6 minutes. Like, we're Restborg. We can do all this good stuff. So, does it sound like I'm bragging? Yeah, a little bit. Because we came. We came from the telecom side. Yeah, and then we put the CPaaS on top, and we're really that connective tissue for messaging and voice, right? So we've got all the bases covered. We got hundreds of thousands of numbers in every market. Anyway, if you need to do. messaging or voice, you come over to Commio and let's talk. Like maybe there's a fit, maybe there's not, but we've got a great team that's here to help. Compliance, cybersecurity, and the actual, communications layer, we got you covered.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you, guys.